don't wait. Cyber criminals are much more proactive than you think, so you need to start thinking about how you're going to protect your organization. And there are a lot of good tools today, and you need to find a way to leverage AI to fight the AI button, basically.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Risk Management Show podcast, where we explore critical trends and strategies shaping risk, security, and leadership today. I am your host, Boris Agranovich, founder and CEO at Global Risk Community, and our guest today is Shai Gabay, founder and CEO at Trustmi, which is a leading cybersecurity company dedicated to eliminating social engineered fraud. Shai, welcome to our Risk Management Show podcast today.
Hi, boss. Really nice to meet you, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So I believe we'll have very thoughtful conversation on your recent research regarding the 1 million blind spot and why finance and security must unite against fraud. But before that, Shai, could you tell us a short story about yourself, your career path, and what brought you to where you are right now?
Sure. So basically, I started my career when I was very young. I was 13 when I started to do hacking. Later
Wow.
on, when I was becoming 18, I went to the military, spent 8 years offensive security. After that, I decided there was a much bigger challenge. So I went to be a practitioner, went to do defense in a bank. Did it
Hmm.
for 8 years, last role as a CISO. Down this period of time, worked with a lot of early stage companies. Really like the idea of innovation, really like the idea of solving business problem using technology. And after 8 years, I realized that that's my passion. At that point, I asked myself, what do I need to do in order to build my own company? So I realized that I never did anything around business, never worked in a startup. So I decided to do that first. So I resigned my role as a CISO, crossed the line to the dark side, went to three cybersecurity startups in order to learn how to build my own company, and started Trustmi 2.5 years ago. And to your point, when I've been all around cybersecurity, see a lot of different things and so on. And when I thought about what I want to build, I wanted to be able to do something that I will be able to show real value to my customers, something that you can really measure in dollars. Especially in cybersecurity, it's very hard to quantify business value. Most of the narrative of sales are more about fear, not value. And second, I wanted to do that in a way that I can show you that it's working before you buy it. So that's why I went after this type of problem, did a long market analysis and learned that that's become a very big problem, a problem that everyone have it, but not always speak about.
Hmm. Okay, we will discuss what you guys up to later on, but maybe
Yeah.
that now we will go deep into the actual problem, because your research indicates that over 83% of enterprises experienced at least one fraud attempt in the past year, with nearly half losing about half a million dollars or more in a single incident. So, what are the primary factors contributing to these substantial financial losses?
Yeah, so I think in order to really explain that, maybe we need to take a look for a second on how B2B payment work. Okay, so as we all know, B2B payment is a very complex process. First, because it's involved a lot of different people inside and outside of the organization. Most of the communication are based on email as the source of truth, although it's the source for all evil, and everyone know that. But then we have a lot of different siloed systems, like procurement, supplier portals, ERPs, treasury payment, all that, right? And each one of them, generally speaking, will be siloed. And on top of that, the finance people will have a lot of manual controls to try to address and mitigate some of those risks. But at the end of the day, it's a classic people process technology problem. It's a very comprehensive process, no one really connecting the dots, and each one doing their own thing, and no one make sure that the process itself was intactful and verified. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. So,
Now, think about if that's the process and that's the complexity, for cyber criminal to be able to compromise that process, it become very easy. Now, more to that, cyber criminals always motivated by profit. So when they realize that they can go after people that has access to the payment or finance, basically, it's much easier to go than any other attack. Instead of do a data breach and then start to do ransom stuff like that, they can go directly after the payment.
Mhm. Understood. So your report also elaborates that while cross-functional collaboration is often described as strong, a third of organizations admit that collaboration gaps directly contributed to a recent fraud incident. So can you elaborate on these collaboration gaps and how they are exploited by fraudsters?
Yeah, so think for a second again, who own what? First, I don't think that in most of the organization there is a function today that own fraud in B2B area. If you go to B2C, consumer, e-commerce, and so on, you'll see a big department of fraud, a lot of solution, a lot of investment. Who's really taking care on the B2B side? Most of the time, it's all under the CFO responsibility to some degree. They own the controls. Most of that will be manual controls and so on. But they don't usually implement any technology. They don't know how to innovate those type of things. And on the second part, if we're speaking about the email, and we spoke that everyone use email, right? That 80, by the way, 85% of the attacks start in the email. Not necessarily finishing the email, but there's some aspect of email. Who own email security? That's the CISO usually. So how do you know that it's working? How do you really collaborate? That's part of the problem. Sorry.
Yeah,
So that's part of the problem. Part of the team, like the security team
I see.
responsible to do email security, to protect the organization in general. The aspect of the financial fraud, it's most of that being addressed by manual controls, education, and awareness.
Mhm. Yeah, because you argue in the report that the real solution to fraud prevention is structural, not procedural, emphasizing the need for connected context, clear ownership, and the unified approach to risk. Can you recommend what specific structural changes do you recommend to financial and cybersecurity teams to achieve this approach,
So
achieve
first,
this
I
approach?
think like everything, it's always start in visibility. Usually, security team are aware to financial incident only when it happened or specific incident, and then they are coming to try to support investigation or something like that. They really need to be part of the process. Organization really need to track how many financial losses they have. By the way, most of the organizations that we spoke with, they don't really assess it. And like cybersecurity, that there's a lot of regulation and you need to keep track and report everything. On financial fraud, if that's not material to your business, it's not necessarily something that you're going to report or track. So there will need first to be a collaboration between security and finance to solve the problem. It starts from visibility for the process, for the different aspect of that, but also to measure the risk. And it's all about risk management, right? You need to understand how big is the risk in order to be able to mitigate it. So you need to better understand what the existing controls, what the existing tools that you have. And because the root cause of the problem is like it's a very comprehensive process and no one really connecting the dots, it's very important to really see the process end to end, to really understand how you're doing communication, how you get your invoice, how you process that, how you're doing bank account change, how you verify the payment and details, and so on. So at the end of the day, when you have the access and visibility to the end to end, it's much easier to detect deviation, patterns of fraud, and those type of aspects.
Mhm. Oh, so Shai, I would like to ask you a personal point of view.
Yeah.
What is a major misconception in the field of cybersecurity that you strongly disagree with?
So I think first, when I started at the bank, I remember that it was evolution, right? Cybersecurity was in the beginning, it wasn't even cybersecurity, it was information security. And then we didn't have necessarily all the tools, and it was like if someone doing a mistake, like clicking the link of malicious something, the common ground will be let's fire him. He did a mistake. Okay, that's evolved. That's not the best practice today in cybersecurity. We need to implement a lot of tools to protect our employees to make sure that it won't happen. I think that in the finance side, it's still more like I was in the bank a long time ago. You have a lot of people that doing a lot of manual work. You're not necessarily pay them to think. You pay them to process and work in a very scalable and volumetric place. So we need to start giving them much more tools and help them to do their job much more safely. And I think that's didn't evolve. I think it's more like, okay, if my employee going to do a mistake, I will fire him.
Mhm. So, looking ahead, what are the most significant trends or emergent trends in fraud that organizations should be preparing for, and how can a unified finance and security team and strategy help mitigate these risks?
So I think that we first need to understand that the landscape change. Okay, everyone is speaking today about Gen AI, but while all the organizations are experiment what they can do with that, the other side already utilize it in a very effective way. If we were speaking back in 2020, the biggest example that I'll give you about financial fraud was the classic example that happened to Google and Facebook. Basically, one of their supply in Taiwan was compromised. They used that to ask them to change their bank details, and they lost $100 million like that, right? The problem that we're speaking is not new. The way that the attacker make it much more real and sophistication become really supercharged. Gen AI is supercharged the fraud aspect. Okay, we teach our employees today to try to detect typos and mismatch context and stuff like that, right? The new attack that we see, it's much more sophisticated. They have the full context. They don't have any typos. Everything look really real, but you're still relying on manual procedure. Like the most common example would be callback procedure. Every organization that I'm speaking with tell me, one of my best practice, if I see someone asking us to change the bank details, we're going to do a callback procedure,
Mm.
right? We're going to verify it by phone. But something changed. First, usually it's relying on the fact that you know the person that you're going to speak with. Let's assume that you set up this vendor 5 years ago. Probably this guy is not in the organization anymore. So who are you going to call? Are you going to do a simple Google search? Are you going to call to the number appearing in the email? It's become much more hard to make this control effective. But add to that Gen AI and deepfake calls, it's become very, very hard to fight with those type of tools. So I'm going to also say, if you want to fight AI, you need to leverage AI. That's the only way to go.
Mhm. So, what you guys trust me up to this day? So, what are your kind of specific invention in this field? Because there are a lot of companies operating in this space.
Yeah, so look, again, we believe that the root cause of the problem was that no one connecting the dots. So we came from cybersecurity. We know how to connect different data sources. So we're looking on the process A to Z. We're connected to the email, to the ERP, to the procurement, whatever system you have involved, we are going to connect to them. Now we're leveraging all this data in order to extract a lot of features, and we are using AI to detect patterns and find anomalies. But obviously, that's the basic for that. But for us, it was really important, to become something that will be effective, meaning I want to be able to stop the attack or the mistake before the money is leaving the organization, because after effect to recover, it's very hard. But on the same token, we wanted to do that in a way that doesn't change the way that you do your business. Because if there's one thing that no one really want to do, is changes their processes, right? No one really want to do it, even for security. So Trustmi is a SaaS solution that connect all those different systems, but become part of the process. And in the B2B world, payment being done in payment cycles. It can be daily, weekly, monthly, whatever is the frequent. So when the AP team run their payment cycle, we become their co-pilot. We correlate everything that we see into a very simple risk score, basically green, yellow, or red. When saying everything is okay, go ahead and pay it. Yellow is suspicious, usually payment mistakes like duplicate invoice and typos and so on. And red, that's a fraud, and we're going to block it. And just to give you an idea, we have dozens of paying customers. In the last year, we processed around $200 billion. We were able to prevent more than $5 billion of payment mistakes. 50% were duplicate invoice,
No.
and more than $1 billion of fraud. So that's what we're doing.
Oh, fantastic. All right. So if we summarize our interview for someone who is listening and would like to walk away with one or two major takeaways, what would would that be?
So first, I'm going to say, don't wait. Cyber criminals are much more proactive than you think. So you need to start thinking about how you're going to protect your organization. And there are a lot of good tools today, and you need to find a way to leverage AI to fight the AI button, basically.
Mhm. Fantastic, Shai. That's were all my questions. Perhaps if I forgot to ask you something that you feel is important to our audience, please go ahead.
Yeah, and I would, last thing that I will add is for the security teams that a lot of the time are not really necessarily involved in the finance side. You need to start working together because you need to protect your organization. And one of the most common attack vector today is financial fraud. So if you won't step in to help the finance people, your organization are going to continue to see losses.
All right, fantastic. Shai. It was very useful interview. Thanks again, and I hope we will cooperate with your company in the future because we have a lot of audience that is looking forward for such content. So thanks again. I wish your company great success.
Thank you.